Hello, good morning, or afternoon if you're in the East. I'm going to wait just a moment here and then we'll get going with our session today. Today we're building on the last 6 episodes or workshops or whatever you want to call them. And we're coming to a close. This is number 7 of 10. So, all right, let me just go ahead and get going, and hopefully we'll have more people join us not too soon from now. All right. So if you've ever known anyone who's tried to quit smoking, maybe even you, then you know just how difficult it can be. Smoking isn't just a bad habit, it's a chemical addiction. The nicotine, the rituals, the emotional comfort, all of it creates a loop that's incredibly hard to break. And I know this firsthand because 35 years ago, I did. Now, back then, there weren't any fancy nicotine patches or no apps, no vapes, no programs. I was smoking more than a pack a day and had been for over a decade. And yet I quit cold turkey. Just like that. No tapering, no substitutes, no relapses. I've never even had a desire to pick up a cigarette since. Now, before you think I'm about to tell you that I had some superhuman willpower, hold up, because that's not what it was about. This isn't a story about willpower at all. It's about why. You see, I didn't quit because I thought I should. I didn't do it because someone nagged me. I didn't even do it for my health, to be honest. I quit because I knew I wanted to start a family and I didn't want to be a smoker when I conceived. That wasn't just a goal, it was a core identity shift. It was about becoming the kind of woman I wanted to be for my future child. And that desire, it wasn't powered by pressure, it was powered by purpose. And that's what made it stick. That decision, quitting smoking, wasn't easy, but it was clear. Because the moment I connected that change to something deeply meaningful, everything shifted. I wasn't just breaking a habit, I was stepping into a new identity. And that's what we're talking about today. Because whether it's quitting smoking or changing your eating patterns or creating better routines or just simply taking better care of yourself, lasting change doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from aligning your actions with something that matters to you. So if you've ever felt like you know what to do, but still can't seem to follow through, you're not broken. You're just missing the emotional connection that makes it stick. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Kelli Nelson, author and holistic lifestyle coach, and this is week 7 of our 10-part series, Start Where You Are, 10 Steps to Reset for Real Life. Now, this series isn't about forcing discipline or chasing perfection. It's about helping you design a lifestyle that actually supports you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Each week, we're building on the powerful science-backed tools and real-life wisdom from the world's healthiest communities. I just got a notice that my internet is unstable. I apologize. I do not have a way to correct that right now. So please bear with me if we have an issue with that. So this week we're diving into one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, which is how to identify your why and why motivation will never be enough. Looking back, I can see that quitting smoking wasn't just a health decision, it was a lifestyle decision. At that time, I was newly married, approaching 30, and feeling ready to leave behind the chaos of my 20s. I wanted something different for myself and for the family I hoped to build. I had plenty of friends who kept living like they were still in college, even after becoming parents. But I knew that wasn't the kind of environment I wanted to raise a child in. I didn't want secondhand smoke in my house. I didn't want the smell clinging to my clothes or my future baby's blanket. I didn't want to be that mom. I wanted something more grounding, more present, more wholesome. And cigarettes, they just didn't fit into that vision anymore. What I didn't realize then, though, was that this decision would become a turning point in my life. You see, a couple of years later, I was introduced to essential oils. But it wasn't just the oils that changed me, it was the philosophy behind them. You see, I had found a company that taught more than just how to use a product. They taught me how to come back to nature, how to nurture the body instead of just treating symptoms, and how to reconnect the body, mind, and spirit as part of true wellness. At the time, I didn't have the language for it. I just knew that something felt right. And years later, I would discover the blue zones, those remarkable regions of the world where people live longer, healthier, more vibrant lives without trying to optimize every second. And when I learned about their daily rhythms, their connection to community, their slow meals and purposeful movement, I realized that's what I've been drawn to all along. A lifestyle that supports well-being instead of constantly fighting against it. And now science backs up what these cultures have known intuitively for generations. When your life is aligned with your values, when your habits, your relationships, your routines, and your mindset all reflect who you really are, you don't need more motivation. You just need a rhythm that fits. Because when your lifestyle makes sense for the life that you want, your habits finally start to stick. Now, here's something I wish more people really understood. Lasting change doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters to you. Because when your habits don't reflect your values, they start to feel like obligations, not opportunities. They drain your energy instead of fueling your growth. But when your actions align with what you truly care about, your values, that's when things begin to shift. So let's pause for a moment and talk about what values really are. I'm not talking about what looks good on paper, not the things we think we should value, but like productivity or discipline or success. Those are not values, and they're not what truly matters to you deep down. The things I'm talking about are things like freedom, peace, creativity, adventure, spiritual connection, integrity, family, and joy. Values are more than just concepts, they're anchors, emotional truths that guide your decisions when the path isn't really clear. And here's the part we often overlook. Your emotions are part of that guidance system. So we're often told to toughen up or stay positive, but your emotions aren't the problem. They're messengers. That pang of frustration, that restlessness, that subtle sense that something is off, that's your inner compass saying this isn't aligned. Now, I'm not talking about letting every bad mood derail your progress. This isn't about following every feeling blindly. It's about learning to listen, to pause, to pay attention, and to ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What's the unmet need underneath this? And why am I living in a way that reflects what I say matters most? When you start tuning in, not just to your goals, but to your gut, you begin to build a life that feels like yours, a life that's no longer run by default settings or old conditioning, but by conscious choice. And when that happens, discipline becomes less necessary because alignment starts to do the heavy lifting. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. You may have heard me list some values earlier: freedom, peace, creativity, adventure, spiritual connection, integrity, family, and joy. And you might have thought, yeah, that's me. That's what I care about. And I believe you. But here's what most of us don't realize: we compromise those very values all the time. And not because we're weak or lacking discipline. Often we're not even aware it's happening. We say we value peace, but we fill our days with chaos, overcommitment, and self neglect. We say we value connection, but we shut down, withdraw, or avoid hard conversations because it's easier than feeling vulnerable. We say we value truth or integrity, but then we find ourselves going along with things that don't sit right because of pressure, expectations, or simply not wanting to rock the boat. And that inner tension you feel when your choices don't match your values, that's called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when your actions are out of alignment with your beliefs, and it creates this uncomfortable, often subtle sense of guilt, stress, or inner conflict. And instead of facing that discomfort head on, many of us do what we've been trained to do. We tune it out, push it down, or distract ourselves. We say things like, it's not that bad. I don't have time to deal with that right now. Or this is just what's expected of me. But over time, that dissonance adds up. And we wonder why we feel anxious, unmotivated, disconnected, even exhausted without knowing why. It's not because you're broken, it's because you're being pulled in two different directions, internally and externally. You're being asked to function in a way that contradicts who you really are. And no amount of motivation or habit tracking can fix that. Because this isn't a time management issue, it's an alignment issue. The real work isn't about being more productive. It's about becoming more authentic. And the good news is your body knows when something is off. That unease you feel, that inner whispering saying this doesn't feel right, that's your nervous system asking for something different. That's your values trying to get your attention. So instead of trying to silence that discomfort, what if we leaned in with curiosity? What if we started listening, not to the noise around us, but to the truth within us? Because you don't need more pressure. You need permission to live in a way that actually reflects who you are. Now, by now, you may be realizing just how often you've been asked by your schedule, your culture, or your own conditioning to live in ways that quietly conflict with what you truly value. You feel it every time you keep the peace but lose yourself. Every time you do what's expected instead of what's aligned. Every time you push through when your body is begging for rest. Or say yes when every fiber of your being wants to say no. And the hardest part, the tension doesn't always show up as an obvious crisis. Sometimes it shows up as fatigue or irritability, or the creeping sense that you're off but can't explain why. And that's not failure. That's your nervous system whispering, this isn't working. What we've been exploring over the last couple of months is exactly this dynamic. We've looked at the way your brain clings to routine, even when it's harmful, because it's trying to protect you. We've seen how willpower isn't sustainable because your biology will always fight what feels unfamiliar, unsafe, or misaligned. And we've broken down how modern life pulls you out of rhythm, out of rest, out of nourishment, out of connection, and how those disruptions impact your behavior and your biology in ways that go far deeper than bad habits. And now we've come full circle because there are places in the world where people live differently, where their lives are designed to work with their biology instead of against it, and these places are called the blue zones. In these regions, whether it's Sardinia or Okinawa or Costa Rica, people live well into their 90s and 100s without chronic disease, burnout, or this constant inner tug of war. They don't live this way because they're more disciplined. They live this way because their daily rhythms are in alignment with what makes us thrive as human beings: connection, movement, rest, purpose, belonging, nourishment, and yeah, joy. They don't have to motivate themselves to take a walk or eat real food or rest in the afternoon. They don't feel guilty for slowing down. They don't force habits. They live them because their environment, their community, and their internal compass are all pulling in the same direction. That's alignment. That's integration. And that's what we're working toward here, not as a fantasy or a faraway ideal, but as a real possibility for your everyday life. Because now the science confirms what these communities have shown for generations. When your body, mind, emotions, and values are all speaking the same language, you don't need to hustle for change. You just need to create the conditions where wellness becomes the natural outcome. And that starts with uncovering your why. So let's walk through 5 steps that will help you uncover your why and begin to realign your life with what matters most. Because now that you understand how misalignment creates tension and how true wellness starts with value-based living, it's time to bring that into practice. Here are 5 simple but powerful actions to help you uncover your why, the emotional driver that will keep you anchored when life gets messy. So action number 1 is revisit a time when you followed through. So think back to a time when you stayed committed to something, even when it was hard. Maybe it was training for a 5K or changing your diet or starting a business or showing up for someone you love. And ask yourself, what made it worth it? What emotion was fueling me at that time? Chances are you'll find it wasn't willpower that carried you through. It was purpose, a deeper reason behind that goal. Action number 2, identify what sparks a strong emotional reaction. Your core values are often revealed in moments of deep joy or deep discomfort. Think about something that lights you up or something that breaks your heart. The things you can't ignore often point directly to what matters most. So don't analyze it, just feel. What are the moments, causes, or memories that bring tears to your eyes or fire to your voice? Action number 3, ask, who benefits when I'm well? Your why doesn't have to be self-focused. In fact, it's often stronger when it isn't. Who in your life is positively impacted when you show up rested, grounded, and healthy? Your kids, your spouse, your friends, your community? When your why includes someone you love, your commitment becomes even more powerful. Action number 4 is to define the feelings you're truly after. We often set goals like lose 20 pounds or get organized, but those aren't the real goals. They're stand-ins for something deeper. So ask yourself, what do I want to feel? Peaceful, confident, present, free? When you name the feeling you're craving, you get to the emotional root of your why. And action number 5, complete this sentence. I want to feel blank so I can blank. This is your bridge from intention to purpose. Now, let me give you some examples. I want to feel energized so I can explore the world with my partner. Or I want to feel strong so I can stop hiding and start living fully. Or maybe I want to feel calm so I can enjoy the time I have with my family. Take a moment, fill in the blanks, write it down, because when your why is clear, your habits finally have somewhere to go. And I mentioned earlier that I quit smoking over 35 years ago, and it's true, it stuck that time. But what I didn't tell you is that that wasn't my first attempt. Like so many people, I'd tried before. I tried to cut back, tried to quit with friends, tried to distract myself, but nothing really worked. Until that moment when I connected the habit to my why, to the life I wanted, the mother I hoped to become, the example I wanted to set. But even then, it wasn't just the decision that made the difference. It was what I did next. Without realizing it, I began to reshape the habit loop itself. If you've been with me since week 1, you'll remember habits follow a predictable pattern: cue, routine, and reward. And I knew there were certain cues that triggered me without even thinking, such as getting in the car or sitting on the couch, talking on the phone. So I changed the cue. I bought several tiny pairs of baby shoes, sweet, soft, and symbolic, and I placed them everywhere. I had a pair hanging from the antlers over the fireplace where I spent most of my evenings, a pair over the rearview mirror in my car where lighting up a cigarette had become automatic. Little visual reminders of the life I wanted to create. Back then, I didn't know anything about behavioral science. I didn't know I was disrupting the loop, creating a new association and retraining my brain. What I did know was that I needed help remembering my why at the exact moments when I was most likely to forget it. And I followed that knowing, that quiet nudge, that intuition. Because here's something I believe with my whole heart: you don't just change through logic, we change through truth. And truth often comes through a whisper, not a plan. Science gives us a framework, but intuition gives us the key. It's what helps us recognize what feels right before we can explain it. It's what pulls us toward alignment, even when the world is pushing us toward noise. And the more you listen to it, the more you'll begin to live in a way that no longer needs willpower, because your entire life becomes a reflection of your own values. Now, over the past couple of months, we've explored how our habits are shaped, how they're influenced by our environments, our nervous systems, our energy, our emotions, and most of all, our values. We've challenged the old thinking that you just need more willpower, more motivation, or more discipline. And we've opened the door to something far more powerful: a lifestyle that supports you instead of draining you. But let's be honest, we don't live in a blue zone. We don't live in a village where life moves slowly, where people gather every day, where rest is honored and nourishment is built into the rhythm of life. We live in a world that's fast-paced, digitally distracted, and focused on convenience over care. And that's exactly why I created my Fit and Fab for the Holidays program, a 12-week lifestyle transformation that begins at the height of summer and carries you through the chaos of fall and the holidays with strength, clarity, and grace. This isn't a diet, and it's not a challenge. It's a reimagining of what's possible when your routines align with your values, when your daily rhythm works with your body, not against it. And if you're ready to stop just getting through the holidays and start feeling present, empowered, and energized during them, this is your chance. We begin August 5th, and the first step is simple. I'll drop a link in the chat so you can book your call with me today. And in that call, we'll talk through where you are, what's holding you back, and how we can build a personalized plan that works in real life. Even if your world is busy, even if you've tried before, you don't have to uproot your life to start feeling better. You just need the right rhythm, the right support, and a strategy that finally fits you. So let's create that together. Schedule your call today and let's build your personal blue zone right where you are. And have a beautiful day today, and I will see you next week for the next workshop. Have a great day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.